I slipped my foot into the soft leather of my new heels, the ones that carried my initials discreetly stitched on the inside lining.
Custom made.
Exclusive. The kind of shoes people stop and whisper about the moment you enter a room. I leaned against the full-length mirror in my Manhattan apartment, running my hand over the silk blouse draped perfectly against my skin. Everything looked effortless. The view of the skyline behind me, the calm flicker of candles on my marble counter, the confidence in my posture. But none of it had come effortlessly. Every detail was carved out of nights that nearly broke me. My phone buzzed against the glass table. I reached for it, my freshly manicured nails tapping once before I picked it up. A name flashed across the screen, a name I hadn't seen in years. Jessica Miller. I froze. Jessica. The girl who once made me want to disappear. The girl who laughed the loudest when I walked into homeroom wearing shoes that weren't even new, just patched and glued together, so I wouldn't trip. Now, she was messaging me. Olivia, are you in New York? We should catch up. I'm actually going to the Hays Designer Showcase tomorrow night. Do you know the brand? It's huge right now. My lips curled into the faintest smile. The irony was almost too sharp to swallow. Did she know? Did she have any idea that the very designer she bragged about, the name on her invitation, belonged to me? I set the phone down, the city lights reflecting against the glass. My heart didn't race with nerves anymore. Just a quiet thrill. They mocked my shoes once. Now, they wear the name I own. I wasn't always Olivia Hays, the woman people admire now. Back then, I was just Olivia, the girl with secondhand sneakers and dreams too big for the small town I grew up in. I can still remember the day it happened. 10th grade. Hallway buzzing with laughter, lockers slamming shut, the scent of cafeteria pizzas sneaking down the corridor. My sneakers, white once upon a time, now faded to gray, squeaked as I walked past Jessica and her friends. Nice shoes, Olivia, she smirked, her voice loud enough for the crowd to hear. Are those thrift store exclusives? The group burst into laughter. My cheeks burned hot, and I wanted to melt into the tiled floor. I pulled my books tighter to my chest, pretending not to hear. But the sting landed deep, like tiny shards pressing into my skin. By the time I reached the bathroom, tears blurred my reflection. I hated how my hands trembled, how my throat ached with words I couldn't speak.
Shoes.
That was all it took to remind me how little I had, and how easy it was for others to measure my worth against it. That evening, I sat on the porch steps outside our small house, staring down at those same worn-out sneakers. My grandmother, Margaret Hays, lowered herself beside me, her presence warm like a soft blanket against the chill. She didn't need to ask what was wrong. Somehow she always knew. They laughed again, didn't they? She said gently. I nodded, ashamed to admit it. Her hand rested on mine. Olivia, shoes don't decide where you go. Your steps do. Remember that. I looked at her, the lines on her face carved with wisdom and resilience. She had lived a hard life, raised her children with little, yet carried herself with unshakable dignity. Promise me, she whispered, you'll never let their laughter be louder than your own dreams. That night, I made a quiet vow to myself. I wouldn't let cheap shoes or cruel voices define me. Someday, I would walk into every room with my head high, and they would remember my name, not for what I wore, but for what I became. It was the first spark, the first step, the beginning of everything. I left for New York City with one suitcase, 2 pairs of shoes, and a fire inside me that no one could see. College was out of reach financially, so I took what I could get, a part-time job at a small retail store on 34th Street. The kind where you stand for 8 hours straight, smile at customers who barely glance at you, and pray no one notices the holes in the soles of your shoes. But I noticed something else. Every day I watched women pick up heels, sandals, boots. I noticed which ones they lingered on, which ones they tried twice, which ones they bought despite the price tag. It wasn't just about shoes. It was about how those shoes made them feel taller, bolder, unstoppable. I started sketching at night, on scrap paper and the backs of receipts. I didn't know the technical terms, but I knew beauty when I saw it. I knew what a shoe could do for a woman. One evening, as I crouched behind the register sketching, I heard a voice. "That's good work," a woman said, peering at the drawing in my hands. Her name was Claire Donovan, a designer in her 50s who had been in the fashion world long enough to see hundreds of girls like me, hungry but raw. Except she didn't brush me off.
She leaned in.
"Ever thought about studying design?" I laughed. "With what money?" She studied me for a long moment, then said, "Talent doesn't wait for permission. If you want this, start where you are. Learn everything. Don't stop." From that day, Claire became my mentor. She slipped me books on design, introduced me to people who mattered, and critiqued my early work with brutal honesty. The road wasn't glamorous. I worked retail shifts by day and cleaned offices by night to cover rent. My feet ached, my body begged for rest, but my heart kept me alive. There were days I doubted myself so much I couldn't pick up a pencil. But then I'd remember my grandmother's words, "Your steps decide where you go." The first breakthrough came when a small boutique in Brooklyn agreed to carry 3 pairs of shoes I had designed and hand-stitched in my cramped apartment. I sold out in a week. The owner called me in, her eyes wide. "Do you have more?" I didn't, but I worked night after night until my hands blistered, producing a new set. That moment, handing over boxes I had made with my own hands and seeing someone pay for them, not out of pity, but out of genuine desire, felt like oxygen filling my lungs. Still, I kept my success quiet. My family back home thought I was getting by. Online, I posted pictures of coffee shops and sunsets, never boardrooms or sketches. I wanted my work to speak first before I ever did. Brick by brick, step by step, I was building something they could never take from me. The night of the showcase felt like standing at the edge of 2 worlds, the girl I had been and the woman I had become. The Hays showroom on Madison Avenue gleamed like a jewel box. White marble floors reflected golden chandeliers, while rows of spotlights highlighted the new collection. My collection. Women in shimmering gowns and men in tailored suits floated across the room, champagne flutes in hand. Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled, stylists whispered. It was everything I once dreamed of, and more. I stood at the center, calm, poised, wearing a sleek black dress and heels from the very line being unveiled. They were bold, sculpted, unapologetic. Exactly how I felt. "Olivia?" The voice tugged at me from across the crowd. I turned, and there she was, Jessica Miller. Her blonde hair curled perfectly, her sequin dress catching the light. For a second, she looked exactly like she did in high school, polished, smug, untouchable. Except this time, her confidence wavered as her eyes darted around the opulent room. She walked toward me, her heels clicking nervously. "Oh my God, you're here too? Can you believe we got into this event?" I smiled, sipping my champagne. "I can believe it." Her laugh was too quick, too forced. "I mean, it's Hays. The Hays. Everyone's obsessed. I tried for weeks to get an invite. Do you know the brand?" I let the silence stretch, savoring the suspense. Around us, the buzz of conversation continued, a fashion editor gesturing animatedly at a display, a model posing near the step-and-repeat wall. Jessica's eyes landed on the enormous screen at the far end of the showroom, where the new campaign video played. Introducing the Hays Signature Collection, designed by Olivia Hays. Her smile faltered. Her head snapped back to me. "Wait, Hays, that's you?" The moment hung heavy between us. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. I simply nodded. "Yes, Jessica. Hays is me." Her mouth fell open slightly, her voice barely a whisper. "You own this." "I don't just own it," I said evenly. "I built it. Every stitch, every sketch, every step. This is mine." Behind her, 2 more familiar faces appeared, Emma and Ryan, classmates who used to sit at Jessica's table, laughing along at her jokes. Their expressions mirrored hers, disbelief melting into shame. They scanned the showroom again, the floor-to-ceiling displays, the exclusive guest list, the cameras pointed toward me. Reality was sinking in. You're the Olivia Hays?" Emma stammered. "The same one you knew," I said, my voice steady, but my heart humming with years of pent-up triumph. The same girl you laughed at for her shoes. The difference is, now the world laughs with me, in joy, in admiration, not mockery. Jessica swallowed hard, her painted lips pressing together. For once, she had nothing clever to say. I let the silence breathe, let them sit in it. The room was alive with music and chatter, but for us, time had slowed. Finally, I leaned in just enough for her to hear. Funny, isn't it? You mocked my shoes. And now you wear mine. Jessica's eyes darted down to her heels, and sure enough, they were Hays. One of my early designs, the kind that had sold out in days. Her cheeks flushed crimson. The cameras began to flash toward us, reporters noticing the tension. I straightened, every inch of me radiating control. I was no longer the girl hiding in a bathroom stall. I was the woman standing at the helm of her empire. And they, the ones who once laughed at me, were now standing in my world. The days following the showcase were a blur of headlines, interviews, and photo spreads. Olivia Hays stuns the fashion world, from small-town girl to global designer. My face was everywhere. And then came the inevitable. Jessica, Emma, even Ryan, they reached out. Not just with texts now, but calls, emails, even a handwritten note slipped under my office door. They wanted meetings.
They wanted me.
I agreed, but on my terms. We met in my office, a sunlit corner on the 28th floor, walls lined with framed sketches, shelves filled with leather samples, a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking Manhattan. My desk was sleek, but beside it sat something deeply personal. The first pair of shoes I had ever designed, worn and imperfect, placed on a pedestal as a reminder of where I started. Jessica sat across from me, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. Emma and Ryan flanked her, quieter than I had ever known them. The silence stretched, the city buzzing faintly below us. So, I began softly. What is it you're looking for? Jessica cleared her throat. We just wanted to say we're proud of you. And maybe, if there's any way we could, work with me. I finished for her, my tone calm, but cutting. Their eyes darted down. They didn't need to answer. I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands together. I don't hate you, but I remember what it felt like to be on the other side of your laughter. And if you want a place in this world I've built, there will be conditions. They looked up, startled, but I continued. Jessica, you used to measure worth by appearances. If you want to work with Hays, you'll establish a scholarship fund, shoes, supplies, tuition for underprivileged girls in our hometown. You'll give back what you once mocked. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. She just nodded slowly. Emma, I turned to her. You were always smart, but you hid behind cruelty to fit in. If you want to collaborate, I expect you to pursue what you truly wanted. Journalism, wasn't it? You'll cover stories that uplift women, not tear them down. Emma blinked, shocked I remembered. Tears welled in her eyes. And Ryan, I said finally, my voice firm. You laughed along, but you were a follower. If you want to be here, prove you can lead. Mentor younger designers. Teach them resilience, not ridicule. The weight of my words settled heavy in the room. I softened my tone, but not my stance. This isn't about revenge. It's about balance. You once took away my voice. Now I'm giving you a chance to use yours differently. But understand, I don't need you. You need me. Silence followed, broken only by the hum of the city outside. For the first time, they weren't mocking me. They were listening. Truly listening. I rose, smoothing the fabric of my dress. Those are my terms. Take them or walk away. Weeks passed, and slowly, I began to see the ripple effects. Jessica launched the scholarship fund, awkwardly at first, but it grew faster than she expected. I saw a photo online of a little girl holding her first brand new pair of shoes, grinning ear to ear. For the first time, Jessica's name was attached not to gossip, but to generosity. Emma sent me a draft of her first feature article, The Silent Weight of Teenage Bullying. It was raw, honest, and brave. She admitted her own role in stories like mine. For the first time, she wasn't hiding behind someone else's cruelty.
She was dismantling it.
And Ryan, he started mentoring interns in one of my design labs. Watching him explain stitching techniques to a young designer, patient and kind, was like seeing a different person altogether. I didn't forgive them overnight. Scars don't fade with a single apology. But I began to see the truth. Change is possible when people are given the chance and the challenge to rise higher. One evening, after a long day, I returned to my apartment. I kicked off my heels, not because they hurt, but because even now I loved the simple relief of being barefoot. My eyes drifted to the old sneakers sitting in the corner of my living room, preserved like an artifact. Faded, patched, ugly to everyone else, but beautiful to me. I picked them up, running my fingers along the frayed seams. Those shoes had carried me through laughter, shame, loneliness, and into resilience. They weren't just shoes. They were the proof of every step I had taken to get here. My grandmother's words echoed in my heart as if she were beside me again. Shoes don't decide where you go. Your steps do. I smiled, tears pricking the corners of my eyes, not from pain anymore, but from pride. The city outside pulsed with life, 1,000 lights shimmering like possibilities. Somewhere out there, another girl was sitting on her porch, staring at her worn-out shoes, wondering if she'd ever matter. I wished I could reach her, hold her hands, and tell her what I now knew to be true. So instead, I whispered it to myself, softly at first, then louder, as if the whole world needed to hear it. They mocked my shoes once. Now I own the designer, and I'll never stop walking forward.